Did you know that choosing the right fonts for your brand and website will make a huge difference in how your business is perceived online? And it can be the difference between your ideal client leaving straight away or sticking around and seeing what you've got to offer. Hey everyone, I'm Kelly Sparks, and today I'm going to teach you how to choose the perfect fonts for your brand and website. And stick around until the end, where I will show you how to get my free font pairing swipe file to make your job even easier. Before you choose the actual fonts you want for your brand, you need to decide what style of font is going to work best for your brand. And we can do this using font psychology. So first, let's take a look at serif. So this is the oldest font style, and it's characterised by the little strokes at the edges of the letters, and they are called serifs. And they appear on both uppercase and lowercase letters and everything else, including numbers. Serif is the perfect choice for traditional, academic, classical and elegant businesses, things like antique shops or vintage shops, and historic businesses. Next we have sans serif, and these fonts do not have the serifs on them, hence the name sans serif, and are considered more modern than serif fonts. Styles can vary a lot between fonts, and some could be square or round, but they're all simple, clean, friendly, and suit a minimal contemporary aesthetic. Sans serif fonts tend to take on the characteristics of the fonts that they're paired with. So a serif font with a sans serif will give the sans serif a more classic feel and more elegant, whereas pairing it with a script font would make it feel more formal and feminine. Speaking of script fonts, let's look at those next. So script typefaces mimic cursive handwriting, so they're like calligraphy. So they can be quite formal like calligraphy, or more casual, or very ornate, or very plain. They're generally best reserved for your logo or for headings, as they can be impossible to read if they're in large paragraphs of text. They're perfect for historic businesses or where you want to evoke style or romance, so something like a wedding planner or a florist would be great with a script font. Handwriting typefaces are more like real handwriting than script because they have an uneven letter form, kind of like if you were really writing it. They're great for conveying a more relaxed, creative feel. They can be very distinctive, and again, a better use for logos, titles, and larger text because of the legibility. As with the script font, they can be casual or formal, neat or messy. Display typefaces are generally used for headings rather than body text. They're attention-grabbing, quite modern again, eccentric, bold, friendly, and they can be expressive and unique. And these usually need to be displayed at a larger size. And finally, let's have a look at monospace typefaces. These have characters that all occupy the exact same amount of horizontal space along the line, and they've got the feel of text written on a typewriter or an early computer. They're plain and less distracting than other typefaces. Don't underestimate the power of a font. So the same text written in different fonts can convey a different meaning. So if we have a look here in this sweet little font, it's quite cartoony, and it says, "I'm here for you." You know, you read that, you got that on a card, you'd be like, if that came through the post on a card, you think, oh, someone's thinking about me, that's lovely. But then if this came through the post on a card, you'd be like, oh my God, who's here for me? Where are they? So very powerful. You can see, I know that's quite an extreme example, but you wouldn't put that font, the scratchy font, on a wedding website, for example. However, like an escape room or a horror or something like that, that would be a fabulous font for a title. So the burning question that most people ask me when talking to me about fonts is, how many fonts should I use? And I always say as few as possible. Using too many is going to dilute your brand and make your website look super untidy. And it's also really difficult to match lots of different fonts together. Ideally, you should choose 2 fonts that express your brand perfectly, one for the titles and one for the body text, with perhaps a third for your logo or on social media posts, something like handwritten one, for example. For body text, the best one to use is a sans serif font, unless you're a super historic business, because that is going to look out of place. So in that case, you would use a serif font that was quite simple and looks good at a small size. And it's got to have numerous styles as well. So if you think about when you write a paragraph of text, you're going to want bold in there, you might want italic, you're going to want a link, all these different things. So you have to make sure that the font you choose has all of these different styles built in. And in the swipe file that I mentioned earlier, I have lots of examples of serif font and sans serif fonts that work perfectly on their own. So if you can just look at that and choose one that works great for you. If you choose one of the stronger fonts, so like the bolder fonts like Display, Script or Handwritten, then pair it with something simple to avoid a busy design with different fonts competing. And another thing to think about when looking at pairing different fonts is to make sure that you have contrast between them. If you choose two that are too similar, then you're going to have a pretty dull design, and you're probably better off with just going with one font so it's strong and makes a statement. Just make sure that they work together harmoniously, because fonts that are too different can also jar. And equally, don't be afraid to just use one typeface across your entire brand. If you find one that you think suits you perfectly and it's got multiple styles that can be used in different areas, especially like thin, bold, all these different options that you can use, it can make it a really interesting website, really good for design, and you can use different styles in different areas. And the next question that I get asked all of the time is, where do you get fonts from? So I have a few go-to places for fonts. There are so many different websites that I can't list all of the font websites here. But my favourite one is Google Fonts, simply because most of the page builders these days have Google Fonts built in. Something like Elementor, for example, has it built in for you. And the second one is Adobe Typekit, and you can actually create a typekit without having an Adobe account. So you can upload your font. And the third one is Creative Market. I absolutely love Creative Market, and I could spend all day on there. I love it when I need to choose fonts for a client and I can get on there. Perfect for things like handwritten fonts and things that are a bit more creative. And generally they don't have lots of different styles, so it might not be the best to look there for a body font. And also you can go to Font Squirrel, My Fonts and Dafont. I'm going to put all of the links below. I hope this video has helped you understand how important fonts are to your brand, and that you now know what type of fonts will work well on your website. As I mentioned before, I've got a swipe file for you to make choosing font pairing super simple. The link's in the description below, so make sure you go and check that out. And finally, don't forget to subscribe to be notified when I release my next video, and I'll see you again soon.